Hello, and thank you for joining me today.
Good
Um,
afternoon, Eileen.
Thank you. So you're going to give us some information on Senior Line today. So thank
That's
you for
right.
that.
And
So
thanks
can
for the opportunity.
You're welcome, Anne. So can I ask you what you did prior to getting involved with Senior Line?
Yes, I was a journalist for most of my life. I was involved in print media and doing a lot of feature stuff. I wrote educational stuff, I wrote property stuff. And then I also have a qualification. I'm a counsellor, an accredited counsellor, and I've done an awful lot of work in the whole training area, training organizations and training individuals.
Very interesting. So can you tell me what your role within the service is?
So my role in Senior Line would be, again, doing a lot of the training of our volunteers, Eileen. We've around 100 volunteers. These are all older people, and I do a lot of their training. A lot of the training is about very effective, impacted kind of listening on Senior Line, not a passive listening, but a very active listening. And also wearing my other hat, I am Senior Line is a program of an organization called Third Age. It's an NGO, and I'm communications manager for Third Age. And Third Age has a number of kind of socially useful programs throughout Ireland. And all our programs are delivered by trained older volunteers.
So you're kept very busy.
You could say that.
So can you tell me what service does Senior Line provide?
Right. So we're a national confidential telephone service for older people. And we're open every day of the year from 10 till 10, every single day. And we had over 28,000 calls last year from older people all over the country. Now that wasn't 28,000 callers, because a lot of people phone us all the time, and we become very, very important to them, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. It sounds like a wonderful and well-needed service as
It
well.
is very needed. It's very needed. I was talking to Connemara Community Radio this morning, and we were talking about life in rural Ireland, where a lot of our callers are from, where the loneliness and isolation could be quite acute at times, you know?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me a little bit more about the Third Age organisation?
Yeah. So Third Age is an NGO. Its national office is in County Meath. And Third Age, its aim is to kind of promote the contribution of older people. So all our programs, as I say, have trained older volunteers, as well as Senior Line, which we'll talk about a little bit more now. I know we have a program, a national service, which is very topical and very needed at the moment, called Fáilte Isteach. And Fáilte Isteach is in every county in Ireland. And the Fáilte Isteach volunteers teach conversational English to migrants, and they've been always very, very busy since the whole situation in Ireland changed. So many migrants beginning to come to Ireland in the last 20 years. Now, since Ukraine, the whole thing has exploded, and we have international protection applicants as well, and a lot of them are in direct provision centres, and our volunteers also go into the provision centres to support and to work with them. So if you think Senior Line is important and vital, Fáilte Isteach is absolutely essential in today's Ireland.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, we are ever changing. Yes.
And then I suppose the other one I'll mention just briefly is a program called Age Well, and it's like a face-to-face Senior Line. It's in Meath only at the moment, but again, very, very, there would be great potential and a great need to scale it up. And in Age Well, we train older people as companions for people at home, and we visit people at home every week, and we phone them in between the visits. And every fortnight, every volunteer is trained in the use of a mobile health app, and he or she takes the same 20 questions of the client every week, and that gives you a complete graph as to how their social health is, their mental health, their emotional health, their physical health, and you can see the changes very easily if anything is becoming worrisome. So it gives
Mhm.
a very early warning system if anything's going wrong, and then we can refer to lots of other places in the community, and that's proving really, really useful.
Yes, and that face-to-face interaction is very important as well,
Huge.
especially in later life.
Very much so, yeah.
And can you tell me how long has Senior Line been in operation and what's the feedback that you get from your service users?
Well, we celebrated our 25th anniversary last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we get really very positive feedback, as you can imagine, because
Mhm.
all our volunteers are trained really to listen with a lot of empathy and to give people time and to understand their situation as best we can. And the training is all geared to that for our volunteers. So it's a great, our volunteers often say to us, gosh, I wish I'd learned how to listen like this years ago. My husband really would have loved it, this kind of thing, you know.
Yes.
Are more likely maybe the husband say it, because I mean I think maybe, well, I won't make any sexist remarks about men or women, but so a lot of our feedback is thank you really much for thank you very much for listening, and that was very, very helpful. Or people can be quite stuck in their situations and we support them over a crisis. And then we also have, every volunteer has a directory of services of very, very relevant organizations. So say, for example, we get a caller and it's obvious that they're very, very down and they're finding it very difficult to get out of bed. And a lot of people have been very poorly affected since COVID, as you can imagine. It
Yes.
has had a long arm. And we would be listening to this volunteer, and they mightn't say depression and all of that, but it's obvious that life is tough for them. And at the end of the conversation, we might say, well, have you heard of an organization called Aware? And they mightn't have. They probably would, but they might have. And we would give them information about Aware, and we would give them the contact details, and we would make sure they take them down. And then it'd be up to the caller if they wanted to follow through on that or not. Now, a lot of people still phone us back anyway, but a lot of time we refer to a particular dedicated organization that gives them that extra bit of help.
Yes. And it's, sometimes people just want that listening ear, as well, which is very
Huge.
important.
One of the things, Eileen, you discover when you're on Senior Line is the value of listening. It's really
Mhm.
a much undervalued asset in life, actually. People don't listen that well, and we really listen well. And
Yes,
it's what's most appreciated, I think.
of
And also
course.
the fact that it's peer to peer and it's older people listening to other older people. So there's an awful lot of mutual understanding.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And can I ask you, when are your phone lines open and is it free to call the service?
Yeah. So we're open every day of the year, every day from 10 in the morning till 10 at night. And it's a free phone number, and it's 1800 80 45 91.
Very good.
1800 80 45 91. And Eileen, if any of your staff or your colleagues would like, we have a little bookmark which has our number and the opening hours, and we can supply these to anyone that you might like to leave with a client if they're on their own at night. Anytime, actually, they just want to chat with somebody, we'd be delighted to hear that from them.
Thank you very much, Anne. And can I ask you, if someone were to phone up Senior Line, what type of person would answer the call to them?
Well, it's going to be another older person, and that person is there because they want to be available and they want to listen and they're interested, and they might have been originally from rural Ireland and now they're living in Dublin. We centralised the service in Dublin some years ago because it proved to be quite difficult to manage the service with different centres around the country. It was hard to give those volunteers the support they needed, and we had to centralise, which we have done, because our volunteers, they obviously needed a lot of support. An awful lot of calls are very ordinary, people phoning for a chat and conversation, but difficult problems do arise and our volunteers need support. So that's very important. So they would get another older person, man or woman, more women than men are volunteers, and who's delighted when the phone rings and they're there to be with the caller.
Brilliant. That's great. And my final question for you today, Anne, is the service confidential?
Very confidential. Now, I'll qualify that, Eileen, if I may. The ring of confidentiality is inside the Senior Line circle. It's important. So the confidentiality is between the caller and senior line, not the caller and an individual volunteer, because at times volunteers need to talk about callers. It's a duty of, and we need to hear what's going on. Our duty of care to volunteers and the volunteer duty of care to callers. So there's something big. In fact, I've got to phone a volunteer after this who's phoned me that she's worried about something, and I'm going to phone her. And we'll obviously will be discussing a caller that has caused her concern. And that's very necessary in a service like this. So the confidentiality, we never would talk about a caller outside the service. We sometimes use anonymized information for press releases and all of that, but nothing that would identify a caller.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Anne.
Very, very, very important. People need to know that they have their autonomy and their privacy when they phone us.
Of course, it's very important. So thank you very much for answering my questions today, Anne. So it's great to get this awareness out of this wonderful service. I think it's fantastic. I think the fact that there is support there, like you said, peer to peer, is very, very important because you know, an elderly person would relate better to, like you said, their peers in relation to any of these, you know, little troubles that they might be coming across. So thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you to Eileen for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.